Hi everybody. A student asked me to put together a little YouTube tutorial for just to let folks know exactly what to do if they wanted to do this workaround that I came up with for my classes in Google Docs and Google Slides. So I'm just going to put this together for any teacher who finds this useful for long distance remote learning. And let's go ahead and get it started. So the first thing I want to go ahead and do is let us get into our Google Classroom. So the very first thing you need to do is to create a Google Classroom for your students. And I'm sure there are lots of videos on it. But once you have a Google Classroom account, which you can get if your school does their own kind of G Suite, and that's basically a domain name with the schools, they're usually a .org or something like that. A lot of schools do it. You have a Google Classroom that you are basically privy to. The thing about Google Classroom is you can't just invite every single address. With Google Education, it has to be all within the same domain name. So, for example, all of our students use their school email addresses to log on to this. And to create a class, you just go ahead and hit the plus sign and create class. It's that simple. And once you have the class created, you can go in. I'm just going to create a fake class real quick. Class name will be YouTube demonstration. You can fill these in or not. Go ahead and create that. It'll create your class. And once you do that, basically it takes a second or two, and you can invite your students. You will need to invite them either with a code, and so you can do that by going right here into plus and typing in their email, and it'll just send them that code. I'm just going to do this one here because I have access to that. So I'm going to go ahead and invite my imaginary student. The other way that you can do it is, let's see, somewhere in the settings. I'm not 100% sure. There it is right there, class code. You can just tell them to send them this code and tell them to log in through Google Classroom. I recommend putting in students' emails, and it can be a little time consuming, but if you have a list available, a spreadsheet or something like that, it's pretty easy. So once you do that, the big problem that a lot of teachers want to kind of solve in this time of social distancing is, how do I create a digital worksheet that students can easily access? And sometimes, we're talking about students who are not necessarily that tech savvy or very young, but you still want to be able to use very graphic heavy things. And so in order to do that, there are a lot of ways that you can do it. Some people use a Google Doc. I'm going to show you today a way to preserve a lot of the graphics that you may already have in Worksheets. And I found this little workaround to be very useful. So the next thing you're going to need to do is go to Google Drive, and you're going to create, instead of a new doc, you can do one of two things. You can create a new Google Slides, and this is going to be the first way that I'm going to show. And the default setting is not at all kind of the layout of our typical worksheets. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to delete that and get rid of these themes. And I'm going to go ahead and go to File, Page Setup, and Custom. Now I'm going to go ahead and do my 8.5 by 11, which is a typical paper size. And now I have pretty much like a standard paper size here. Now the cool thing about this is I was trying to figure out a way to do some graphics and not have it be so that my students have to move around pictures or anything when they're just trying to fill in some information. So I already had lots of PDFs, and you can download some PDFs as well of things that you might find useful. Let me just open up one of my PDFs. Let's do nutrition fact labels. So I'm just going to resize this so you can kind of see a little bit better. So here's my PDF here. This is what it looks like. There's some graphics on the page. Everything's kind of formatted already. This is just meant to be a sheet that I printed and students will write on. So in order for me to be able to do this and send this without students having to, worry about all these bulky things moving and stuff, here's what I did. Okay. The first thing that you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn each page of the PDF that you want to convert into basically a picture file. Higher quality, the better. And so you want to get it nice and big on your screen. And on the Mac, you can do a screenshot where you want to save it to a file. So in order to do that on a Mac, it's Shift Command and 4. And then you're going to get this. For a PC, it's a little different. But as long as you know how to make a screenshot, and the higher the quality, again, the better. And you basically get the whole page. And once you do that, it's saved to your computer. You're going to do every single page that you want, kind of like so. And again, the reason that I'm doing it this way as opposed to just creating a Google Doc or a Google form is, I'm a visual learner, and I think that sometimes pictures are worth 1,000 words. And so I want to preserve all of that work that I did to find that. You could also look up some very easy PDFs. So say for like elementary mathematics or something like that, there might be, let me see if I can find a good one really quickly. Usually under images, you can find something that's worth it. Let's do something like this. So this is like super visual. There's no way that I'm going to be able to do that on Google Docs or anything like that. That's a lot of formatting. And so what you can do is you can just save that image. Again, the better the quality, the better it's going to turn out. I'm just going to save that on my desktop somewhere. I'm going to call this, I'm just going to leave it that name there. And it's a GIF, actually. Interesting. All right, let's see what happens. Here's what you're going to do next. Go to this slide that says background. And you want to do this as opposed to just plopping the image in, because if you plop an image in, and I'll show you what that looks like. If you plop an image in, like this equivalent fractions image, so that's the image that I just got and I saved. When the students open it, they can move this all around and do all kinds of funny stuff that we don't necessarily want to have them do. So instead, I'm going to go ahead to the background here and choose that image that I wanted. Go to Browse, or you can drop it and just find it. And hit Done, and there's my worksheet. Now the beautiful thing here is that I can't by accident drag any of that stuff off, and so it's this nice pristine kind of thing that you can have. The other thing you can do is, I'll show you in a moment. Let me just go ahead and do the same exact thing. I'm going to delete all these other things here. Do the same exact thing. Go to Browse, and I'm going to do my screenshots that I just did. Hit Done, and there's my worksheet. So this is a way to be able to get worksheets to students, and why I choose Google Slides as opposed to Google Docs is that you basically get a chance to create it as a background image and not have students be able to move it around or worry about the formatting of it. It does need to be an image though for you to be able to do this, but I've had some success with it. So far this is looking good. So this is maybe my worksheet for a younger age student. This is my worksheet for maybe higher age student that I want to go ahead and have them write on it. You can do two things at this point. You can, you're going to need to save this. So I'm going to call this example worksheet, digital worksheet. And that'll save to your drive. Once you save it to your drive, you can access it in your Google Classroom, and you can share it with the students in Google Classroom. So I'm going to actually do two things. This is going to be example digital worksheet number 1, and I'm going to make a copy of this, an entire presentation, and we're going to go example digital worksheet number 2. Now in example digital worksheet number 1, I'm going to leave it as is, just kind of with those things as the background, and show you what happens when you share that with students. And example digital worksheet number 2, I'm going to add a couple things. I'm going to zoom in a little bit by hitting Command and Option and plus. And so this is what it's going to look like when students zoom in on it. And so basically you see each one of these boxes is where I want them to be able to do like some kind of text. I'm going to actually create little text boxes to go in those places. And you might need to play a little bit around because you see, for example, you have like some room here and you want to do it a little bit more centered. You might need to go to Format Options and kind of see in the positioning or text fitting if there is something there. So you see this padding here, you can put it to 0 and it'll just basically create the text box like with no extra space. So the text box will be, the words in the text will be right in there. And so there's my text box there. I like to color them just so that they look a little different in case the student moves them. You can do them with a solid color. I like to do it with a kind of transparent color. So I'd pick any kind of color here. And I'm just going to show you how to do it. It's kind of transparent as a background. So I'll go to Custom and change the transparency a little bit. And the reason that I do that is that maybe a little bit different. Sorry, Custom, a little less transparent. Now I can easily see like where I've added a text box. You could even put some text in there. You can format if it's going to be, left, right, center, all of that good stuff. Hit these 3 dots, and I'm just going to make it nice and even in the middle. It does require a little bit of kind of playing around with. You might want to even play around with fonts if you like that kind of thing. But it's up to you. And you basically are just going to copy and paste text boxes wherever it is that you want students to write. Okay. So I'm going to imagine that, maybe I just will zoom, copy and paste. Now the great thing about having this as a background, this picture, is that it won't get selected. So I can copy and paste this whole thing here, and it'll make my job a little easier. And so why am I doing all of this? Well, I'm just going to do these 3 and imagine I do the rest of that. When students open this up in Google Slides, depending on, again, their age level and their savvy with computers, if they've used Google Slides before, this will make it really easy for them to just click and type as opposed to writing with their fingers or any kind of other thing. Some of those features are not guaranteed to work in the Google Classroom, and I just wanted to kind of let you know of a couple things. So I'm just going to copy and paste some of these again in the other thing here so you can kind of see. So here's my worksheet. They have to write some similarities. I have my text box that's a little bit transparent so I can see where it is so it's not invisible. And I'm just going to go ahead and do that. If you have lines like this, multiple lines, I like to, I'm a little bit of a control freak. I can own it. I'm grown here. We all know that at this point in our careers, I'm sure it's always best to just own whatever it is that you are. So I'm just going to do a little bit of this, some formatting. So as you see here, like it's not kind of on the line spacing that I want. So I go to line spacing, and you go to custom spacing, and you can just kind of play with it until you get the perfect spacing. That looks pretty good, actually. So now that I know whenever a student gets to the next line, it's gonna be the right kind of thing. So I like that. I'm gonna go with that. We'll leave it blank. I also put in here, type answer here, so students know that this is where they actually put their answers. So again, I'm just gonna copy and paste. Once you do all that setting up of that, this is pretty easy from there. Just a little bit of copy and paste job. And I'm going to zoom out again so I can see a little better. And that's pretty much what you do for all of the things that you want students to write in. And again, you don't have to do this. Students, if they're savvy enough, they can figure out how to do this on their own. But I found this to be super helpful if they've never really used Google Slides before in this way. And so just imagine that I did that for all pages. And so now that you have that all set up, what you're going to go ahead and do is, once you have it all set up and you're kind of happy with it, you're going to create an assignment. So I'm going to create 2 assignments in my class, and here's what it's going to look like. You're going to go to classwork, and plus for create, you can create an assignment. Now there are a lot of little things that you can kind of figure out and play with what these things mean. I'm just going to do the very basic things. So I'm going to do example worksheet 1. You might want to give some instructions how to fill this out, or links. You can add lots of links, videos for YouTube, whatever it is that you need. The most important thing, though, since we are working on the worksheets, is Google Drive. And I'm going to go ahead and find the Google Drive things that I want. So example worksheet 1 was this one, because I can tell this one had the little shading on it. See, that's another reason why I like the transparent shading. Again, control freak, I own it. Hi, nice to meet you. Important thing here is you're going to go ahead and do this. Instead of students can view file, make a copy for each student. It's going to make your life easier, and I'll show you how in just a second. All of this stuff here, if you have multiple Google Classrooms, you can assign it to multiple Google Classrooms at once. You can assign it to certain students, right? For example, I could pick the students, not if you do multiples, but if you had like a few students that you're going to assign a specific thing for, you can change the point value, you can change the due date and the due time. You can create a topic so that it's organized for them. We're just going to call this example worksheets. Why not? You could even create a rubric. I'm not going to get into all of that. I'm just going to go ahead and assign that to my students. It's going to take a second to do all of that stuff. I'm going to do the same thing with example worksheet 2. Go to Add, Google Drive, find the file that you just spent all that time doing. So it's this one here. Every time you do this, when you add a worksheet, it creates a template. You don't want to edit this. Okay, you don't want to touch anything that says template. You want the thing that is the one that you did. Okay, so once you go ahead and do that again, make a copy for each student. It's gonna make your life good. Happy teachers make happy students. As we all know, we're going to go ahead and hit assign. And that's going to create that. I want to show you what it looks like on the student's end, because I think that's kind of where we want to get to eventually. So I happen to have my iPad out, and this works really well. The Worksheet 2 is going to work well with both computers and phones. Worksheet 1, let's see if my iPad is cooperating today or not. So here's my iPad. I'm going to go ahead and let's start with classes. Let me just refresh. I don't think I got the, there we go. There's my join. This is what students get if you put their emails there. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that. And here are my 2 assignments, okay? So I'm gonna show you what example worksheet 1 looks like for the students, at least on this iPad. And I think it looks a little different for different types of things, but essentially, oh, there we go, nice little things. By the way, the students do need to upload, get the Google Classroom app, and they're probably also going to want to get the Google Slides app too. So you can let them know that those are the 2 things that they can do, easily accessible and free. And so again, all of the directions and stuff come at the top. And if they go on the bottom where it says your work, they can open this up, and here is digital worksheet number 1. Now digital worksheet number 1, if they get a little pencil mark like this, which I think is, I found that sometimes it was there and sometimes it was not, which is why I started to put in those text boxes. Here's what they can do. So if they get that digital pencil box, they can go in, and on the bottom here, they have different tools that they can use to write in answers. So for example, they can use their finger. I don't know how it works with the pinch and zoom. Oh, there we go. Yeah, it works too. So they can write with their finger. This is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, over 12, right? And so they can fill this out just as they would like a normal worksheet. And they can change that and do a highlighter. And let's see if we can approximate. Beautiful. Yep. And let's count and see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 out of 6. So now this student is able to basically do the work and edit the file on their own. On their own device. It works really well on a tablet. This will work less well on the phone, but you can pinch and zoom and kind of go in very closely. The same kind of thing. We can click this button here on the right and go to page 2, and they can zoom in. And they can write their answer. My answer, sorry for the handwriting, is blah, 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 because, and again, because they're using their fingers, you may not get the most legible things in the world. Some other things that they can do, there's a little text box here, and this text tool at the bottom here, if they drag a box, it'll also create a box for them to write something. The only problem is the formatting might be a little funny, but they can type if that's an appropriate skill that they need to have in their class. Again, formatting is kind of the issue with this method, with the pencil method. And so there's a second method, and it works best with putting in those text boxes for the students. But I'm going to go ahead and show you. Whoops, cancel. Hit the save button. When they're done, it's going to create a PDF that is basically an edited version of what they just did. And that will show up here. So when they actually are ready to turn it in, so say they do all of that, they can hit this turn in button and they'll turn in the work. Okay, and that's how basically it'll be one blank assignment and their edited assignment with all of their things as a PDF. So that's one way that they can do it. And the second way that they can do it, I'm going to go to the other example worksheet 2. This is why I highly suggest them also opening or downloading the Google Slides app. So I'm again go back to your work at the bottom. I'm going to click on Professional Development Example Digital Worksheet number 2. And this time, instead of hitting the pencil, what I'm going to do is I'm going to hit this little box in the corner that has a little arrow coming through it. And what that's going to do is open that up into Google Slides. And so it's going to open it up in Google Slides. And I don't think you can, oh, actually you can. You can pinch and zoom. But this time I can actually double click inside of the box and type. So, oops, I don't know how to, let me count here. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there we go, 10. Double click in there out of 12. I have not played with this super duper long, so I'm not really sure how to do any of those crazy highlighting tools, but students can kind of figure these things out a little faster than we adults can. So I have a lot of faith in them. Again, if they want to go to a different page, they click on the bottom here. They can pinch and zoom out or pinch and zoom in. And again, no matter if they're on here, if they click on they have to click on the box in order to move it, and they can move it, which is why I really like making sure that these boxes are colored so that students know what it is that they're doing. But they can double click inside here, and this one will be formatted for them. So if their answer is very long, also this is a great little function here, watch this. If their answer is very long, comma, it will automatically go to the next line, and since you formatted earlier, comma, it will keep it nice and neat on the lines for you later to read, period. And they just have to proofread their work. But that's pretty much the gist. The great thing about this is that when they're done, they just hit the little check mark in the corner, I believe, hit the back button, and it's already saved to their drive. If you wanted to go ahead and kind of, go back to Classroom, it's already saved within this digital worksheet number 2. They don't need to do any kind of separate things. The other thing that students can do is if they want to print out some of these things and they have that capacity to print it out, say they do have a worksheet that is that's basically like done on paper, maybe one that you created and shared digitally like this, what they can do is go to Add Attachment and go to Use Camera, and they can create basically a picture of their work and turn that into just hitting Use Photo, and it'll upload to Google Drive, and when it's finished uploading, it'll already be connected to this assignment. And so that's a really easy and kind of sleek way to make sure that all of these files don't come as separate emails in a million different ways at you, and it's all in one place. So they're going to go ahead and turn it in, hit turn in, and that's pretty much all she wrote from the student end. And what that ends up looking like on the teacher end, let's see if I can get that back. On the teacher end, when you click on here, we can see that it's turned in. We can look at the work that the student did. Each one of the things here is separate. So if they did this online, you can kind of see their answers right away. You might need to resize it or zoom in or whatever to do the reading, but it's nice and formatted, nice and neat for you. If they took a picture, it'll be a separate file that was attached. And again, you can zoom in or out and kind of take a look at what it is that the students did. You can do all the stuff. And you just type in your grade. This looks perfect. Give them 1,000%. Add some comments if you'd like. You can even add some comments in here if you want to go ahead and on the picture say like, here's where you really need to add more detail. Or you can say, nice detail here. And comment, you can give students comments like that on their work. Whenever you are finished, great work overall, you can go ahead and return that to them so they can see it. And that's pretty much it. And they get that sound was the little notification that let them know that that's what they have something ready to go. And then you go ahead and it's graded for you, right? And that's the one assignment. Here's the other assignment. Example worksheet 1. What does it look like? Looks a little bit like this. So again, the first assignment that they did is going to be blank because they did their edited one. And when you go to the edited one, it'll show up all of the markings that they made. And you can go ahead and grade it like that too. So I just wanted to show people a workaround for the worksheets. I know that Google Forms is not so graphic. I'm a very visual person. This is the way that I've been doing it here. It does require a little bit of tutorial for students. Feel free to kind of share this video and I'll try to put some markers in it for the students to look at how to actually fill this out and how to use it in the two different ways, the pencil way and then the Google Slides way. And yeah, just feel free to use it. I kind of came up with this, and if you have a better way, feel free to share that as well. Stay safe, stay healthy, everybody, and that is all. Thank you so much.